Multiple sclerosis affects approximately 130,000 people in the United Kingdom. I know this because I have read the statistic approximately 300 times in the past 18 months, mostly late at night, mostly in the particular way you read statistics about your own condition when you are trying to understand whether what is happening to your career is happening to other people too. It is, extensively, but that is not the story I'm here to tell. I am a project manager, was, for a while. I'd been at the same company for 8 years, managing large-scale digital transformation projects for clients who paid significant fees for the privilege of my team's attention and who, for 8 consecutive years, had rated our delivery as satisfactory or above. My annual reviews described me as reliable, commercially aware, and capable of managing complexity under pressure. In September of last year, I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting MEs, the most common form where symptoms come and go, where some people experience minimal impact on their daily function and some do not, and where the trajectory is genuinely uncertain in the particular way that neurological conditions are genuinely uncertain. I told my line manager, a man called Simon, in October. I told him because I was legally required to inform my employer of a diagnosis that constituted a disability under the Equality Act 2010, and because I believed, this is the part I find hardest to tell you with a straight face, that transparency was the right approach, I prepared a document outlining the condition, the likely impact on my working pattern, and the reasonable adjustments I was requesting, which were modest, occasional flexibility on commute days when fatigue was a factor, and a slightly reduced travel requirement during the early treatment period. Simon said he appreciated me telling him. He said the company would do everything it could to support me. He said the word support 4 times in 15 minutes, which I now understand as the linguistic equivalent of a warning label. Let me stop here, because at roughly 2 minutes in I need to introduce a particular piece of dark comedy, which is the notification I received in November. Simon sent me a revised version of my Q4 performance targets as an attachment to an email, with the subject line Quarterly Review Update, Standard Cycle. The email contained no mention of my diagnosis. The targets had been revised upward by approximately 30% from the Q3 figures. The document was formatted to look like a routine update. If I had not kept my Q3 targets on file, and I had because I keep everything, which is a habit I developed long before I needed it, and which has since become the single most useful quality I possess, I might have accepted the revision as standard. I did not accept it as standard. I went back to my Q3 document, placed them side by side, and noted 23 specific changes. I noted that the changes had been made without consultation, without explanation, and without any meeting at which they could have been discussed. I noted that they had been implemented in November, 1 month after I had disclosed a disability. I printed both documents, dated my notes, and filed them. My name is not important. What is important is what Simon and I both knew, which was that the new targets were not designed to challenge me. They were designed to ensure I could not meet them. The capability process began in February. Simon called me into a formal meeting, conducted over video because I was working from home that day, and informed me that my Q4 performance had fallen short of the agreed targets. He used the phrase agreed targets. I said I had never been consulted about the revised targets, and that they differed substantially from the Q3 framework. He said all performance targets were subject to adjustment and that I had been notified by email. I said the notification had not included any opportunity for consultation. He said the process would continue. I instructed a solicitor named Annika in March. Annika is the kind of lawyer who does not waste words. She listened to my account, reviewed the 2 sets of targets, reviewed the email Simon had sent in November and said, disability discrimination, failure to make reasonable adjustments, and direct detriment arising from disclosure. She also said, who processed the paperwork for the capability process? The answer was an HR administrator called Lauren. Lauren had been at the company for 3 years. She had processed the capability initiation documents, the performance review records, and the revised target frameworks, and she had, it emerged when Annika contacted her, kept a personal record of a conversation she had found troubling. In late October, 2 weeks after my disclosure and 3 weeks before the target revision, Lauren had been asked by Simon to attend a meeting with the HR director about performance management in my team. She had kept notes of that meeting in a personal notebook. The notes recorded a discussion in which Simon had described my disclosure of a health condition as creating uncertainty about long-term capacity and had asked HR for guidance on how to manage performance expectations in that context. The HR director had said to document everything carefully going forward. Document everything carefully going forward. 3 weeks before the targets were revised. Lauren was uncomfortable. She had been uncomfortable since November and had not known what to do about it, and had contacted Annika because she had read the guidance on whistleblowing and had decided that she was not willing to be the person who processed the paperwork and said nothing. She had kept her notebook because her mother had told her, when she started her first job, to always write down anything that felt wrong. Lauren's mother was right. I want to give Simon something here because this story requires it. Simon was not a cruel person. He was a person who had been given a piece of information, my diagnosis, that he had immediately, instinctively, and almost certainly unconsciously filed under risk. He had spent 20 years managing teams and measuring output, and his brain had processed my disclosure as a projected deficit on a spreadsheet before his better instincts had a chance to intervene. He had then acted on that instinctive projection rather than on the legal and human obligations that should have governed his response. That is not malice. It is the ordinary, well-documented, thoroughly litigated failure of people in positions of management to separate their assumptions from their obligations. It is also, under the Equality Act, unlawful. Annika filed the Employment Tribunal claim in April. Disability discrimination, failure to make reasonable adjustments, and detriment arising from disclosure, which is the specific protection that says an employer cannot treat you less favourably because you have told them about a disability. The company's legal team settled in June. They offered £48,000, a formal acknowledgement, and a contribution to legal costs. Annika told me to accept it. The appeal of the settlement amount is ongoing because I declined. Not because £48,000 is nothing. It is not nothing. Because the cost of what Simon did is not £48,000. The cost is 18 months of a career spent under a capability process while managing a neurological diagnosis, during which I was too frightened to tell my clients what was happening, too exhausted by the legal fight to dedicate my full attention to my own health, and too invested in the outcome to be as present as I needed to be in my own life. The capability process left a mark that the settlement does not erase. I am in a different role now, same industry, smaller company, honest manager, who, when I disclosed my condition during my first week, said, "Let me know what you need and we will make it work." That sentence cost me 18 months and £48,000 to find. The MS is managed. Some days are harder than others. I work from home 2 days a week. Nobody has revised my targets without asking me. What would you have done if you had received that email about your performance targets and something had felt wrong about the numbers? I went back and found the old document. Find your old documents. Keep them. You might need them.